Everyone, and welcome to the November 11th Select Board meeting for the town of Bennington. It is Veterans Day, and a very good Veterans Day to all of you. And a big thank you to everyone who helped create such a wonderful parade and ceremony today, and to everyone that participated. It was really quite wonderful. My name is Jeannie Jenkins, and I have the pleasure of chairing this board. And we will start with having select board members introduce themselves.
Hi, I'm Nancy White.
Hi, Sarah Perrin.
I'm Ed Woods.
Hi, Tom Haley.
Good evening, Clark Adams.
Jean Connor.
Excellent, thank you. And also with us tonight, we have our town manager, Stu Hurt. We have Nancy Lively, who takes excellent minutes. And we have Josh Boucher, who films us every meeting for CAT TV, and this is live, and also will be available later for viewing. So we will begin, as we always do, with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much, Ed. And then, Tom, would you read the vision statement that guides our work? Thank you.
Bennington is a welcoming, engaged, inclusive, resilient community where everyone, regardless of identity, shares in our vitality and benefits from an outstanding quality of life.
Thank you very much. All right, next up is the consent agenda. We have the minutes of October 28th, warrants, and I believe we have, yes, and we have a liquor license application. For the purposes of discussion, could I have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Yes.
In the warrant, page 2, 402052, Berkshire One Senior Center Management, 2,240. Were they at the town senior center?
Yes, they were.
Okay. And the other one, page 6, 402095 MFK, Gate Street upgrades, $27,040.
Yes, that's Gage Street is the bonded replacement of the Gage Street line at the upper end of Gage. MSK is the engineer on the design.
But didn't they have that all set to go this year? Wouldn't we have already paid them?
We pay them on a monthly basis, depending on the charges that they incur.
So this wasn't necessarily for Gate Street then?
No, it was for Gage Street. It just, the bills come in, and we try to pay everyone on a monthly basis, no longer than 30 days.
Okay.
So,
And on the very last page, page 9, Ben Hyde Development Loan Reimbursement, $61,160, payable to 650 Main Street LLC. Isn't that Chris Gilbert?
I don't find that one.
Right here on the very last page.
It's below the signatures.
I'm still not finding it, Nancy, I'm sorry.
Right here on the bottom.
Oh, I see. Yes, thank you. That is and I may look to Shannon or Dan to clarify this for me, but it is we loaned Ben Hyde Development monies, and they are repaying them, or this is being payable. Shannon, please help me out there.
These are for closing costs related to Ben Hyde.
Thank you.
Redevelopment loan reimbursement.
Yes.
Yes, so he sent us the invoices for those closing costs and is being reimbursed.
This is to Chris Gilbert?
No, this is for the Hale Resources, for the closing costs on the project.
650 Main Street LLC, isn't that Gilbert?
No,
That's-
that's the Hales.
Okay.
No.
Thank you, Shannon.
Wait a minute, I thought, she said that's the Hales?
Yes.
I thought they were paying their own costs and we were paying our costs.
We did loan them, this board loaned them some funds, and I can't remember the exact amount, to help with the closing costs, which will be repaid upon full closing.
We voted on that,
And they're reimbursing us at closing.
which is what we agreed on.
Yep.
You were here.
Yep.
Any other questions on minutes, warrants? All right, we corrected a name, so with nothing else, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, the ayes have it. Excellent. Okay, next up is public comment. All right, and make sure I ask after the folks that have signed up have spoken, if there's anyone else that wants to speak. Mona Gothier, speaking on all-inclusive community.
First of all, I want to thank our service people for their service, our veterans. And I'm just going to go right into my spiel. On Saturday, November 2nd, 2024, at Four Corners here in Bennington, there was a small group of people on each side of the Four Corners protesting Israel and the killing of the Palestine people, which included Jenny Jenkins, chairwoman of the Select Board. I am a firm believer of freedom in speech and the people's right to protest. But what I believe you don't have the right to promote is hate in our community. There was a man with a megaphone standing in front of our business and resident of the Jewish family yelling into the microphone, "From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free." This is very sickening that we allow people to stand in front of a Bennington Jewish family's business and place of residence and chant hate slogans that call for the genocide of millions of Jews. From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free calls for the established state of Palestine. From the Jordan River to the Mediterranean Sea, erasing the state of Israel and its people, the Jews. The statement has been used in the United States on college campuses by students targeting other students who are Jewish. It is a rally cry for terrorist groups and their sympathizers, such as Hamas, to erase Israel and the Jewish people from existence. The rally cry was one of the things responsible for October 7th, 23 terror attack on Israel civilians, murdering over 1,200 Jewish people. It was the single deadliest day of the Jews since the Holocaust. You, the Select Board, read before every meeting how Bennington is an inclusive community, accepting of people of all walks of life. However, when we allow people to shout into a megaphone, "From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free," in front of a Bennington Jewish resident and business owners right here at the Four Corners in downtown Bennington, this does not go along with your inclusive statement that you read at the beginning of every Select Board meeting. The call for the genocide of Jews, in my eyes, is a hate crime and should be considered a hate crime or harassment of the Jewish members of our community. It should not be tolerated, and it makes me sick to hear and see this type of behavior happening right here in our community, and with Jenny, chairperson of our Select Board, right there protesting with them. Does not look good for our community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mike Bethel, you're up next with no topic.
Good thing I didn't put one down. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you. I would like to second what that lady said. Didn't know she was going to be here, but I agree with her. That is why I'm here tonight. But I also want to thank Clark for his service as a veteran, sitting on this board, and anybody else that served in our service, past, present, and future.
we're here tonight because of our veterans, so thank God for them. What I do want to talk about is the lack of openness about the Ben High project and the lack of discussion, free discussion, where there's no 3-minute time clock. When are you going to have the next meeting on this project? Number one, you don't have to answer now. I would like it sooner than later. I believe there's a deadline of December, or the end of December, before we can pull out of this project. I think it's time to pull out of this project. It's gone from a $20 million project to a $50 million project. None of you on that board right there I'm looking at have any idea what it's going to cost us a year after, if we get into this project in the town budget every year. Do you, any of you? No. It's irresponsible to put this out without a vote of the people. I think you didn't handle the TIF right at all. And one of the reasons might have been because if you had a TIF involved in this, there would have been a vote of the people. You have to have a vote with the TIF, and the state auditor would have been able to come down and look at it. Nothing against Shannon or Dan. They're very nice people and probably qualified in their position as town people, but none of them have experience in this type of a project. We're taking the Hales version of this. We don't even have a CPA of our own. We don't have a clerk of the works of our own. And this could be one heck of a devastating thing for this town. So I do urge you to pull the plug in December. I do urge you also to have a full meeting or two with the new information that Zach Hale is going to supposedly bring you. And it's time to seriously consider getting out of this. From 20 million, maybe seem reasonable. 50 million, there's no way. It's not little town. Another little building for business downtown just sold, and I believe it's going to be a nonprofit. I mean, come on, how many nonprofits can we have? It's time to stop this huge project. And could you give me an answer tonight when you're going to hold another meeting on the agenda?
You have a 30-second warning.
Big deal.
So the rules, which I forgot to say, are that you have 3 minutes. At 2 minutes and 30 seconds, you get a warning, and that when everyone has completed their statements, then if there's anything we can respond to, we will. So are you done?
Well, obviously, my time's up.
Well, I took 20 seconds of your time if you want it.
You got the message.
All right, next up, Ken Millman with a thanks. We could do these in order of microphone.
Yeah, excuse me for a second. I'm a little slow at this. I'm not good at public speaking. Ken Millman, I moved here in 2018 with my wife. We retired here. We were hoping that Bennington would be a community that was growing, and it's been great. Since we've moved here, I want to thank the Select Board and the town government for the following companies that have opened up following us, and I think it's a vote of confidence. Marshall's, Burger King, Harbor Freight. The Blue Bend closed and then reopened with new management. Chipotle, Starbucks, Hoffman Car Wash, Phillies, Union South, Angry Egg, Ocean State Job Lot. There's a company that is buying the mansion, which was the old Southern Vermont College, spending tens of millions of dollars. There are 2 dog training facilities have opened up, a couple tire shops, Juniper Lane, Silver Therapeutics, Island Flavor, Vermont Chefs. I don't know other towns in the area that have people spending their money, investing in a town, and I think it's because of your work that they're doing it. So while other people choose to complain about what's going on, I want to thank you for what's happening. Thank you.
Thank you, Ken. Anyone else before we close public comment? I'm sorry?
That would be me.
Oh, please come up, state your name and town of residence.
Hello, my name's Roger Levitt. Currently reside in Petersburg, New York. I own a house on Park Street, and I'd like to take note of Veterans Day and thank the veterans for their service, and also to say hello, as I don't believe I've met anybody here yet. My topic is on the traffic calming proposal and plan.
So that is on the agenda tonight. I am really sorry. I completely forgot to say what happens in public comment. So public comment is a time to share information that on topics that are not on the agenda. If you are able to stay and share your thoughts when we get to that agenda item, that would be very much appreciated. Is that possible?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else like to speak for 3 minutes or less on topics that are not on the agenda tonight, that is speaking as a public comment? All right. All right, with that, next up is the Better Bennington Corporation. And
Excuse me.
Yes.
I'd like to make a comment to one of the speakers.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I am really not with it today. Do we want, can we, Stu? I think all we can say about Ben High, to the question about when we will have more presentation on Ben High, is that Zach Hale from Hale Resources was here, I believe, at the last meeting, and he shared that he would be coming back to us as soon as he had the paperwork in order to do that. And as you know, what he's doing right now is going out to all the funding sources, which more than 30, I think it was more than 35, to get the final letters from them. And I mean, yeah, I'm looking at you, Shannon, because you know more about this than I do. So he will come back to us as quickly as he can. So I think that's the only question we can answer, Stu, unless there was something else that you thought could be answered.
No, that's the absolute
Okay.
I have
This is not a discussion time,
I'm
though.
just going to make a comment.
Okay.
The deadline for our town to be out of this is December 31st. The cost to the town taxpayers, based on the information we had and the public information the banner shared, the cost to our taxpayers would be around $400,000.
Not true.
We have got to have a town vote next month.
All
We
right,
do
so
not-
you have now moved out of the realm of...
We do not, we have to stop pushing this off and stalling.
Nancy, please.
Nancy, you're out of
We're in
order.
public comment. All right, so anyone else in the public who has something that's not on the agenda would like to spend no more than 3 minutes and will be civil about it. And you're not part of the public. No, you're not. You are part of the select board. So we make the decisions. This is a time for the public to come forward.
Excuse me, I am...
Oh, my goodness. We are all part of the public, but in this realm, we are the sitting select board. So I know you have made this a practice for several weeks, but we really do need to distinguish between several meetings.
Twice I've spoken up because I am a member of the public of Bennington. I was a member of the public of Bennington years before I became a select board member.
We all are. We all are. But in this capacity, you're sitting here, you can't change places with somebody
I
there.
can go sit up there if you'd like. That's what it takes.
Well, I think that would be not a good use of the vote that people gave you to
Speaking of
represent
people,
them.
It's amazing how many people stop me on the streets and ask me to do what I've been doing because they don't feel their voices and their concerns are being discussed or heard.
Clark, if you feel it's necessary to go up, and I want, you were here, so you could sign up. You could have signed up.
The sign-up sheet was on when I walked through. I was actually out doing some town business.
Okay, I'm sorry, we started the meeting a little after 6.
We
so,
did.
So unless it is house on fire important, I would ask you to hold it. If it feels super important, please get up and be part of public comment.
I'm going to hold my fire until it's very effective. You will be hearing from me.
We usually do.
I'm not speaking to you, Mr. Woods.
Okay,
You're not his-
guys, let's be civil. And we haven't even started the meeting for beyond the warrants at this point. Okay, and public comment. All right, next up is the Better Bennington Corporation. Jeannie Mantrone is here to talk to us about the Downtown Vibrancy Fund grant, and we have that in our packet. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for having me. And as everybody else has also said, I'd like to extend a thank you to our veterans, and thank you for your courage and dedication. For those that might not know me, I'm Jeannie Mantrone, the director of the BBC, and I just really need signatures on a letter of, and I hope I'm saying this right, attestation for the Vibrancy Fund, which is not paid for by the town of Bennington. It is a Vermont program. So it's paid for out of the state, out of the, let's see, the Vermont Department of Housing and Community Development. So I know there's going to be questions on what the Vibrancy Fund is, so I will give you a little clarification. It is the Downtown Vibrancy Fund is intended to support designated downtown organizations' efforts to strengthen and improve the economic sustainability and vibrancy of Vermont downtowns through increased access to resources and capacity to help educate, guide, support, and partner with municipalities, businesses, nonprofits, and community organizations. Luckily, we fall into being eligible for this because we are a designated downtown. There are 24 in the state. And the BBC is the organization that takes care of this. There are there's four criteria in our model that we have to represent, which is downtown vitality, design, promotions, and org, which is the basically the officers, the executive committee. So I am here to ask for the hopefully signatures on the form. Do you have the form?
We do.
Okay. So that it can pass. This is the last piece. They have our work plans. Last year we also got it, and all the money went right back into the community. Every dollar has to be accounted for. And again, it's a state program. It does not come from the town at all.
And my understanding is that this is to supplement, not supplant, funding that you get.
Yes, actually, thank you, because I didn't turn my page over. I would have said that.
Okay.
That's exactly the case. It's not to replace any funding that we get from the town. It is in addition to. And it actually did give us a lot more flexibility last year. Well, yeah, 23.
So we probably need a motion to approve the Downtown Vibrancy Fund letter of attestation to the Better Bennington Corporation.
So moved.
Okay.
Thank you.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion?
I just have a quick question. Sure. Is this, and this is purely informational, is this where the money passes through the town, or we just have to be part of the paperwork?
So basically, you're agreeing that you read that little paragraph that's in there stating that it's, to supplement us, it's not in place of.
But the money will go directly to the BBC,
us.
Not through the town?
Correct.
Okay, that's all.
And it comes in 3 payments. When it's first, done, which would be after this letter, at the midterm, and I have to report out in order to get the next lump sum, and then the final is at the completion, and I also have to report out then.
Great.
Thank you for the clarification.
Any other questions?
Sure. I imagine all of this is a lot of paperwork, accounting for every penny that you spend.
Yes.
Do you know how many other towns receive this or even try to receive this?
The 24 that are designated downtowns, they're actually the only ones that are eligible for it. And all 24 got it last year, and we've all had to be very accountable for the money. And if it wasn't all spent by the end of the term, then whatever portion was left rolled over, and that work had to be completed before that money was paid out. So now we're on to a new term, a new grant, and everybody's in it again. Yeah. It's really an honor to be one of these designated downtowns. I've mentioned that before. It's part of the Main Street America program. So the BBC, prior to me coming on board, met a lot of criteria to even get designated.
Excuse me, question. These four-point approach here, do you have specifics, or we're just going with general commentary here on the economic vitality, promotions, design, and organization? Do you have a specific plan of action?
Yes, we actually approved their work plan. We approved their work plan.
Speaking to her.
Yes, but we approved the work plan.
In the budget.
In the budget.
Again, so you do in fact have specific plans to meet those four?
Yeah, they were in the packet for the budget, but I could give you a quick rundown is that we definitely put money into our organization, like IT was really lacking, so that got taken care of. We did an intense board retreat, which had been years that hadn't been done. A lot of it went into marketing. This is the previous one. And promotions. A lot of it went into enhancing some of the things that have to do with our events. And this time around, I hope to see a lot more also go into economic vitality. So it definitely is accounted for.
I was thinking plans out of county. What were the plans?
Oh, you're welcome.
Other questions? Seeing none. All those in favor of the motion?
Is this an agenda item?
Oh, yeah.
I do.
Please. Anyone in the community would like to share information?
It's Monday.
They usually aren't quite like this.
I'm glad we got the funds. Jeannie, I think, is doing a great job.
Thank you.
But I would also like to say, I hope the select board doesn't use this for an excuse not to give them more money out of that $40,000 that you usually give to the 802 program. I think the BBC needs a lot more money. As this gentleman back here just spoke about how great Northside Drive is and all the businesses that are there, compared to downtown, there's no comparison. We have to give the BBC the money they need to promote activities, to bring people to the downtown, encourage growth in the downtown. I'm sad to hear that the bank, that was it, People's, Chittenden, whatever it is, has been sold to a nonprofit. I mean, pretty soon we're going to change the name from Bennington to Nonprofitville. The downtown people, the merchants, need some help. The new restaurant that went in there, Union South, I don't think they're doing very good, but maybe they are. Other ones that I know that I go to, other businesses, they're hurting because we're not getting the foot traffic. And that $40,000 has been spent the way you've spent it for the last 5 or 6 years. It's not bringing foot traffic to Bennington. The only time there's foot traffic in Bennington is when you have an event. Sarah puts on one a year to do the Mayfest. Those are all great. I'd like to see more of that and more music downtown and make people think, what am I going to do this weekend in the good weather? Let's go down to Bennington. They've got this, this, and this. So I hope you give the BBC more of that $40,000 and not squander it on that 802, whatever that is. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comments? Any more comments from the select board? All right. Now let's vote. All those in favor of the motion to approve this letter of attestation, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? So unanimous.
Thank you very much, everybody.
All right, and so we have an official copy to sign, which we can give you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Keep up the good work. All right, next up is a marketing update.
All right. Take me just a minute to get set up here. I don't have Jonah doing all of the work.
Of course you do.
It's on the other side, actually. Thank you. All right, thanks. Thanks, Dan. Oh, sorry. All right. Oh, here we go. Okay. So good evening, everyone. I'm Shannon Barsati, Community Development Director for the town. And we're here tonight to talk about marketing Bennington. and the town's marketing campaign. Let's see. I'm not sure why this is not moving forward. Let's see. Here we go. So just a little background. In 2019, local business owners came to the town and specifically asked the select board for more funds for a digital marketing campaign. And part of the reason behind that was the chamber had gone from being the Bennington Chamber to the Southwest Vermont Chamber of Commerce, working across the whole region. And so we had business leaders coming and saying, we'd like to see Bennington as a focus. So the town selected 802 Marketing, which is a local digital marketing firm for website design and digital marketing. And then Tara Schatz, who does a series of different blogs and is also a local for the social media and e-newsletter. And we started with a $50,000 a year annual budget. And then last year, when Tara stepped down because her other businesses were really taking off, we started working with Vermont News and Media, and we have Ahmed Yassir here tonight from the Banner, who replaced Tara to expand our social media marketing and also local and regional advertising through Vermont News and Media platforms. So this is a destination marketing campaign. So some of the goals are really to focus on bringing more tourists to Bennington, reaching greater numbers of people, and targeting specific markets at the lowest cost possible. And part of the reason that we chose a digital marketing campaign is that we can really measure our return on investment through the digital marketing tools that we have. Also new in this year, working with Vermont News and Media, is more local and regional advertising. So some of the digital marketing components in our campaign, there's certainly more than this across digital marketing, but what we're using is search engine optimization, SEO, and the goal of SEO is to really use the search engine it helps search engines understand a website's content and increase the likelihood that users will find it through the search results. And you do that through the kind of ads that you're paying for digital pay-per-click ads, also through the language that you use to optimize your search results. So that's something that 802 does for us. Also social media marketing, so we use the platforms of Facebook and Instagram for both content and ads. Pay-per-click advertising, so we use Google Ads where we buy words, so that includes things like things to do in Bennington. You actually pay for those words so that when you search for things to do in Bennington, Vermont Begins Here comes up high on the list. Also content marketing, which includes the e-newsletter that we do, the photography, the writing, that we hire local talent to do that. And then the digital ads that we have through the different channels of the Bennington Banner, the Manchester Journal, Brattleboro Reformer, and Vermont Country Magazine, which is the print publication. So in the last year, we now have a $40,000 budget for the town marketing campaign, and I spoke about this a few months ago in my community development report, but just to break down how this money was spent last year, about $1,500 a month or $18,000 a year was on paid digital ads. So like I mentioned, the Google AdWords, also Facebook ads, which are photo collages and links to area attractions that are on Facebook that we paid for. And then $5,200 or $430 a month is going to pay for that campaign management with 802 Marketing, as well as updates to the website. And then $1,300 a month, or $16,000 a year, is going to Vermont News and Media for the social media management. Also the monthly e-newsletter, all the content and the writing, the photography, and the access to all of the photos that Vermont News and Media has. And then we have $1,500 a year that goes into the print publication of the Shire's Guide that the Southwestern Vermont Chamber puts out every year. And then about $800 a year for various site fees, like website hosting, MailChimp, which is the email newsletter. And then I did some research on what other towns were spending on marketing in our region. So all of our neighboring towns, we're all different. Some obviously have more tourist traffic than we do, but it was interesting to see that we are spending the least of all of our neighboring towns. So I looked at Brattleboro, Rutland, Manchester, and Wilmington, and looked at what their municipal budgets are spending. So some of them are spending money from local option tax revenue. Others have a specific item in the budget. But really, all of the towns, I think what's in common, are spending the majority of their funds on digital marketing. And part of the reason for that is because it's really an effective way to get the most bang for your buck. So going back to the website, some statistics that Jill Jones, who couldn't be here tonight, from 802 Marketing shared. We looked at the total number of visits, and so every year that's increased year over year. So in the last year, 82,414 visitors to the Vermont Begins Here website. The paid visits actually went down, but that was intentional on our part. We wanted to spend less on the paid advertising and more on content. And what we've seen over time is what we wanted to see. So in the 5 years since we had the campaign running, we've seen that organic visits, which is people searching without having to click on a paid ad, that traffic has increased by 22% year over year. So that's important because that's what we want to happen. We want to spend less on the ads and we want to spend more on the content, like the writing and the photography. So our total ad spend and management fees was $23,157, and that also was a decrease from the last year. And I thought it was interesting to look at what some of the top pages were. This just gives you an idea of, with these digital marketing tools, you can see where people are looking, what they're searching for. Fall foliage, of course, is one of the top pages. Things to do around recreation, especially outdoor recreation. We have a great listing of trails and hikes and, things to do all around the Bennington area. Bennington restaurants, discover the Old Bennington walking tour, things to do, shopping, local guide to favorite swimming areas, fall foliage drives, and covered bridges. Those were the top pages that people were searching for. And it's important to note that all of the listings that are on the site with the links to the specific web pages of each organization and local business are free. And one of the reasons that focusing on content is important is that the more content that we have, the more that's shared online. And one example of this is Jonah found this article that was on an online travel magazine called thetravel.com, and the title says 7 mountain towns in Vermont with stowe vibes but better, and Bennington was #1. And it's clear when you go through the article that they're getting the content from the VBH site. So essentially this is like we're getting free advertising from this other online publication because they're finding us, because we are this website really is the best directory of all things Bennington. Oops, sorry. So, how do we compare to the other Bennington-based sites? So when we started, we were at 0 because it was really a new website. So over the last 5 years, we now have the highest ranking for searches, so almost 5,000 a month that people are going to the VBH website compared to the BBC website and the Chamber. We have more than twice the searches. And we also have more keywords that are showing up on those listings. Also, the e-newsletter goes out every month. We have 2,600 subscribers. Vermont News and Media manages that content, so they're writing the content every month. Those articles are covering a broad range of topics, but they're really focused on events, live music, theater, art, shopping and dining, downtown, downtown festivals, outdoor recreation, and Bennington history. And one statistic from that I thought was interesting is that our open rate on that email newsletter is actually quite good. It's 45%. So that means when people get the email, they actually open the newsletter at that rate, which the average is more of a 30%. Now, this is a little bit hard to see, but it's some data on the Facebook and Instagram accounts. And I think what's interesting here is just to see that Facebook over the last year has had an increase in reach by 20%. So we're reaching 458,000 people on Facebook. Instagram, the reach is up 77%. We're reaching 25,000 people. And there's more interaction on each platform. So there's more engagement, more click-throughs on the links, and more visits to the VBH website. So 7,800 website visits throughout these two platforms. We have 3,400 followers on Facebook, and we have 2,600 followers on Instagram. And if you look at the graphs, you probably can't read the detail, but you can see the peaks, and that really shows when people are looking. So for example, you see October, there's a peak because people want to visit Vermont to see the fall foliage. So I think this also is just a good illustration of the tools, again, that we have at our disposal with digital marketing. We can see how many people are clicking not only on our webpage, but what they're looking at, when they're visiting, what they're clicking through, even the other local sites that they're visiting, the other web pages that they're going to. So it just gives us a lot of information. And we also, this year is new, we have online campaigns through Vermont News and Media. So every 3 months we deploy digital ads on the BenningtonBanner.com, ManchesterJournal.com, and Reformer.com, and these are the region's most visited websites. So we have an average of 1 million visits. All of those sites are getting an average of 1 million visits per month, and so thousands of people are reading about our area and they're visiting the VVH website. So each campaign that is happening is bringing an average of 400 more clicks to our website. And another piece of that regional advertising is Vermont Country Magazine. So this shows the layout of a great article on diverse dining in Bennington, also with the ad, the Bennington, Vermont Begins Here ad that was in that article as well. And that reaches all of southern Vermont. 7,000 copies are mailed to southern Vermont residents, and 5,000 copies are distributed all over southern Vermont. So looking forward, we want to keep these partnerships going, because working with local companies that are marketing experts not only is getting us a great value, but we work together. So we meet, we look at photos, we talk about articles, we talk about people that we can pull in who are local writers. It's just a very collaborative process, and I think that we're getting an incredible value for actually what we're paying. And we're always looking at what else is ahead. So one thing that Ahmad pointed out was this new platform called Through Hike, and it's a hiker-focused digital platform that focuses on day trips. So if you're going on the Appalachian Trail, what are communities nearby that you can do a side trip to, and then connecting to that. Also more design content, so more assets like an event schedule that is online but can also be printed and be distributed to downtown businesses, for example. And we also want to consider new ideas, so we want to listen to our downtown merchants through the BBC's work that they're doing downtown and with their Downtown Vitality Committee, and our other marketing experts for new initiatives and opportunities as they come. We want to update the website and newsletter with new content, so using new photography from Vermont News and Media and a new automated events calendar. And we also want to just continue the good work that we're doing, because we're seeing the improvements happen over time. So we're seeking level funding for this year, but we'd like to consider an increase over time as we include new initiatives. So that's...
Super, thank you. That was a great overview. So this is, we decided it would be helpful for Shannon to give a marketing update before we get into January budget, just so that we have some information as we look at that marketing budget in January. Questions from this board?
I heard a lot about I heard a lot about the downtown, but that money is for all of Bennington, correct?
It is, yeah.
How do you know, how do you translate clicks to actual shoppers? I mean, it's great that you've got 1 million views, but is that translating to getting people to come to Bennington?
You know, it's hard for us to measure exactly, who are the people that look at those ads and are they here. I don't know if Ahmad or Jeannie have any suggestions on how we could track that. I mean, one of the things we could do is in our downtown businesses could ask the question of, how did you find out about us? Did you find us on VBH, for example? So trying to track that information at the point of contact with the shopkeeper is something that we could do.
Why don't we have any tie to Albany or the Capital District?
Well, we do take some of those. So for example, Facebook. You can take Facebook ads and you can target one area. So for example, and Jill's not here unfortunately, but 802 Marketing can say, we're going to do an ad for Mayfest and we're going to put it just in the Albany area. And you could do that kind of targeted marketing to Albany, to Boston, to New York City.
I still think events, festivals, I mean, that's going to draw the people to come here. We can do everything. I don't know. I just don't. Everybody looks at online ads. We need something that is going to get people downtown. It was disappointing that when I went downtown driving or walking, wonderful days this summer, there weren't many people downtown, and I really think we're going to have to focus more on events. I really wish we would target Albany more. It seems like we're tapping into the same pool of people who are here. I'd love to get more people from Albany. I mean, it's such a huge pool to draw from.
Do you want to respond?
Hello, everyone. This is my first Select Board meeting. Thank you for having me and for having an open platform that allows people to chime in and bring an opinion. I would say that pretty much from this presentation, and I believe that most people say that they want to see more Vermont Begins here, when actually you're not seeing it because people in Albany are seeing it. That's the thing. We are trying to do more local and regional stuff through print media, more print flyers, and more things that locals are seeing, but that is not actually the main focus of this. It is for bringing people from outside to here, like Shannon first started, bringing tourists to the area. If we want to talk about how many people are reading the Bennington Banner, Manchester Journal, and Reformer from outside of Bennington, that's already helping us find a group of people that are interested in Bennington. They're already reading about it. Now add a few ads on events, few things that take them to the Vermont Begins Here website, they will find more reasons to come here for recreation. The notes about measuring impact and measuring growth, the best thing we can do is to work with people that can give us access to data. When it comes to actually converting on land, that really has to do with every downtown business also doing its job too. This also has to do with opening up a conversation on public transportation. That thing is what actually brings foot traffic to town. I would say that this presentation really shows you multiple platforms with a lot of partners, with a lot of people that are genuinely working to contribute to Bennington's growth with the least budget possible. $40,000 for a town budget barely puts a dent. For Google, for Facebook, anywhere, it barely puts a dent. But just the fact that when I first moved here in 2016, I was interested in what is Bennington ranking on Google. It was not even close to the top 10. Right now, with more content, more experts being brought into it, Bennington is surfacing online. And right now, in an online space, that is necessary, because who else are you bringing here? People that are using the internet. And I would say that right now, like as a person that works in regional marketing, the next step is to actually develop this further by talking about video content, talking about other multimedia work that we can bring. Because right now, still, all of the data, all of the following, all of the people that are interested here are much older. So this is where we need to start, rather than discussing this money that is being spent now that is truly minimal. $40,000 a year for a town marketing is nothing. Yet, everyone is working on it, yet giving double the value of the actual investment of the town, because it's within all of our interest. Me, as a representative of Vermont News and Media, I want to prove to everyone that we're good at what we do. 802 Marketing, they want to prove that they're good at what they do. Having the town as a client is important for all of us, and that is one reason to make us all better at what we do. Thank you.
Thank you, Ahmed.
So I would just add to that and to what you said, Nancy, as like yes and. I think that the data that we've collected shows that this campaign is working, and I would like to see it continue to work in the way that it has and continue to grow. But I also agree with you and the other comments about we do need more events, and we should be supporting, the BBC with more funds as much as possible, because I do think that those things combined is what's going to lead to the success that we want to see as far as our downtown thriving.
Super. Anyone else?
So when you look at the pie chart for Instagram and Facebook, what does the demographic pie chart look like?
The demographic, you mean like who?
Age,
breakup,
demographic breakup.
I don't actually have that in front of me right now. That's something that I could ask Jill about, though.
Sure.
As far as the breakdown of age-wise.
Yeah, I'm just thinking my business and the festivals, they're very different demographics, and I'd be interested in seeing that at some point.
Right.
Yeah.
And even having, bringing Ahmed on board is great because it's like reaching a younger audience too, right? I mean, we've had a lot of content that I think has reached an older crowd, and now it's like, well, let's think about how to bring in a younger audience as well.
So I have a couple things. You all know that this is a topic that is near and dear to my heart. I want to mention a couple of things that Shannon raised about response rates and that sort of thing. It's very difficult to see the results at a cash register. But without, and you guys both said this very clearly, without the engagement of the person that's running that cash register, it's almost impossible to measure the results. So one of the things that I think we have to do better is engage with the person that's running the cash register so that we can teach them how to engage with their customer. And it starts even before that. And Jeannie, I'm looking at you only because your organization is the most successful event-driven that we have in the region. We hear from people all the time that events draw people, and that's very true. And there are certain events that draw people that merchants feel really good about. There are certain events that draw people, and merchants say, I need to close and go home for the day because they don't benefit me. And that's wrong from a marketing perspective, but we have to do a better job teaching those merchants how to leverage that traffic. So I agree that if we had all the money and all the talent and labor talent in the world, events are a great addition to all the efforts, particularly for an area like ours. I caution us, though, because if we don't do part two of that, which is teaching our merchants how to engage in the crowd with the crowd that comes because of the event, or working with event planners more to integrate the traffic that they generate, then we're just generating traffic in Bennington, and it results in a traffic jam. And so we want to be careful of that. a couple of people have asked about, with a lack of knowledge about what's happening at the cash register, we are taught in marketing to read the uptick in or the resulting traffic from the audience that we expose to the market to. So what that means is we don't necessarily know how many people, unless we ask in every business, we don't know how many people ate at Madison's because we marketed Bennington. But we might be able to share collectively data from all of our merchants in the data-driven ways that Ahmed talked about earlier that are that clearly show where people are coming from. The idea is if we served ads to that population and that population used their credit cards in downtown Bennington, we have a win. And we need to exploit that and socialize the results more than we do. I'm not telling you guys that this is easy, but what I'm telling you is that it's necessary. A couple of questions that hopefully you can answer. Who assigns the articles that the Vermont Begins Here newsletters distribute for us? Are you involved in that? Is the editor of the banner involved? I mean, where's the content coming from?
Well, we do a quarterly meeting with me, Jonah, who's involved because he's also our town communication coordinator. He has many years as a local business owner and member of the chamber, et cetera. And so Jonah and I meet with Ahmed and with Jill Jones from 802, and we also have been having a regular meeting with Jeannie at the BBC, and I've also been trying to go to the Downtown Vitality meetings as well, which is one of those committees, so that we can be more coordinated. But we basically set the course for the year, and we'll say, okay, what did we do last year, especially when you came on board, because that was September 2023, and so we had to sort of say, okay, well, here's what we've done. To a certain extent, we are going to recycle certain themes, right, throughout the year, but how can we do it differently? What are your ideas? How can we bring in a new crowd? And so we really sort of set the course for, okay, here's what we want to do for the next 6 months. Who can we work with? What photography do we already have? Which writers are we going to use? And I am part of those meetings, but then I'm not a professional marketer. I am handing this over to people who are professional marketers with the intent to be, let's use the money in the best, most frugal way that we can. And I think we've done that. I really do feel proud that we've made the most of the dollars that we've had.
I would agree with you, and I know that you have the right people in your corner, so you're doing the right thing. One last comment, and then I will let the next person speak. I want you to know that for the last maybe 18 years, we have been talking about an automated calendar of events for Bennington. When I was the publisher of the banner, before we sold it, which I am realizing was 9 years ago, we were researching, doing studies, pulling data together. When I was the president of the chamber, it was a top priority for us. I understand the struggle. That is something that needs to be looked at as in my opinion, a must do. So I would be happy to lend some of that expertise because we still do some of this stuff in the other work that I do. If I can help at all, or if I can just, be a sounding board and tell you what we did that didn't work, I think an automated calendar of events is critical. And I'm in support of you guys. Thank you for all that you do.
Tom, any questions? Okay. Clark? Okay. Jean? No? Well, I want to echo the automated calendar, which is the nightmare of all nightmares, but would be so wonderful to have that. This was very, very helpful. Questions from the community? Yes. Someone beat you to it. Okay. Come on up, Jason.
It's only because, sorry.
I know. The height. Okay, trade-off.
I agree with everything they've said. I'm not trying to take their 40,000 from them. I think the board needs to put another 40,000 at least, or 30,000 into events that Sarah is very good at. Don't give the 30,000 to her because she'll waste it.
I was going to say,
you know.
Okay, yep.
But you know what I'm saying, okay?
Yeah, but that was a compliment, yes.
Yes, it was, Sarah.
We took it as a compliment.
Sorry.
Also, I don't want to do any more. Also, I don't want to do any more events, but thank you.
But you could advise, because you're very good at it. You're a professional at it.
You say that now.
But we need to have
Okay.
more events, because you're not going to have things to put on their website. I mean, you can click all day long, and if nothing is interesting in Bennington, you're not going to go to it. Correct? Am I right or wrong? So we need to have more events. And as far as what Ed Woods just said about the calendar thing, I can't see it's that complicated, because your busy seasons are May.
Don't go there. Just don't go there.
Your busy seasons are what? May, June through peeper season, right?
Oh, it's very...
So, you know, you don't have 30 months to do
Well,
it.
you should look at the November calendar. There's so much going on.
Downtown?
Downtown, Bennington Museum,
then I'll give you
the
that.
Monument Arts and Cultural
But
Center.
if we do more events downtown, word of mouth from people gets there. They know we have a Mayfest. They know we have this. They know we have that. And the other thing is really simple. I go around doing it. I ask the merchants themselves, are you doing better this year than last year or worse? That's not hard to do. And Achman's right downtown working all the time. He's a sociable guy, got a personality. He can go to a few of the businesses and divide it up and just tell him he works for the banner. Don't say that at the end, this work for the banner. But I wish you'd give him more money is what I'm saying, to do events.
All right.
Because they can't
Duly
advertise.
noted. Duly noted. All right. Jason, now your turn, and you have to figure out how to make that microphone work.
All right. The irony is that I never need a microphone usually. So, Jason Frederickson, Bennington, Vermont, and that's why, because I have to project. So I have a great privilege of working at Bennington Museum for many, many years, and unlike the downtown businesses, I track data, and I track it too much. But what's really I know, right? But one of the really exciting things is that Bennington Museum was recognized a few years ago during Consulticon things that Gene may or not know as data management for zip codes. We get every single state to this town, because Bennington Museum gets them every single year that I've worked there, minus one that we pretend didn't exist, pandemic. We also get consistently over 30 countries. I then get the, hey, how was your visit? And then everybody's like, wonderful, what else can I do? And then we send them downtown. So one of the things that's unique this year, unlike other years, is that I feel like when I say, hey, did you come to see the museum for whatever reason, I'm hearing, we're just in the area more and more and more. And I feel like that's because on all the email newsletters that I read or see on Facebook, et cetera, these marketing efforts are really working. But I desperately echo, we need more. Because organizations, downtown businesses, we have no monies to do these things individually, but collectively we have a lot of resource there. So just a little thought.
Thank you.
Thank you. Jeannie, yes, sure. Well, or wherever you want to go.
Come on there. So similar to how I now meet with, well, since I started, really, with Jonah and Shannon, I have found that really helpful because it keeps us connected and in the loop. I'm doing the same thing with Matt from the Chamber and John, who does the Manchester Business Association, so that we're kind of all in the loop. And there has been talk about a calendar with the three of us as well. I do want to say that teaching the merchants is really a good idea, and because we capture the information at the BBC, and we've had a lot of European travelers this summer and people from all over the country. I need to add a column to my book that says, how did you hear about us? That might help, because then I can compile that at the end of each season.
Great.
One thing I have started to do, and I'm wondering if we couldn't figure out a way to get this website to them, is I've been reaching out to bus companies. I know that you get them at the museum, but I would love to see a step on and step off type tour where they go to the museum and then someone really friendly and outgoing jumps on the bus with them, brings them downtown, and talks up the town like a cheerleader. I don't want to do it, but I could do it. But I think buses, like, we're missing an opportunity. I did bring in a bus for Harvest Fest, and they wrote to me, and they were thrilled with the fact that we blocked off parking, that everybody welcomed them, and it's because I was able to tell people they were coming. And then, let's see, I don't know what I wrote there. More events. I am all for it, but I'm going to need a lot more help. Because I will tell you that by January, I'm going to be in full swing with Mayfest. And just when I recover from that, we have the Thursday Night Lives and the Hemmings, but then we go right into Harvest Fest. So I love the idea, but we need to generate more volunteers.
Can I ask you about busing?
Yeah.
So I know that the museum has done some separate busing. Old First Church also works with bus companies separate from the museum. And in the olden days, the BBC also sometimes worked with a bus company to the point that there is a designated bus parking spot across from Unitarian Universalist.
Oh.
It's actually a designated spot that was put in when that sidewalk was and curbing was redone.
That's really good.
So I've never understood why organizations that work with bus companies are not working together so that it is sort of you come in and do the whole town. I mean,
I agree with you. In fact, when I was at Park McCullough, that was something that we started exploring. We had some meetings like with the Robert Frost and the museum and the Old First Church, because we have so many things here and we should all be working together to get people here, but not just to the attractions. We have a gem downtown. I mean, we really have great businesses and restaurants. So if we could work together, I agree. I think that would be getting that back on track. I know that it seems like COVID, there was after that, I haven't seen all the buses that used to come through this town. So, okay. And Shannon is doing a great job.
One quick question. How much would it cost to do what you're talking about?
I have no idea.
Could we find out?
Sure.
Maybe put that in the budget for the buses?
Well, it wouldn't be the town doing that. It would be the museum and the Old First Church and the BBC, which has a separate funding structure, as you know. So it has a separate funding structure. So, I think, certainly it's got to be more cost-effective to do it jointly than it is to do it separately.
Could we as a town put more in the budget so that they could have the money to do that?
I am so happy. In January, the first and second Saturdays from 8 to noon, we have budget meetings, and I would love for you to come and advocate for a larger budget. That would be wonderful.
Advocate for me and sit back. I don't get out too much in January, but I'm serious. It's not a bad idea. When Terry Eric was alive, remember Terry Eric?
I do.
Hemmings. We were related somehow, I don't know how, but he used to say, we'd go to the museum, we were at the museum together, and he saw him later that day, and he said to me, did you notice the amount of cars in the parking lot? And I said, yeah, you had he said, no, did you notice the plates? And I says, no, I didn't. And he started naming off the plates. And he says, I'm amazed, but you don't see them downtown from the museum. And I says, what do you mean? He says, they don't seem to come downtown. So,
well,
gentleman from
that's hearsay, and maybe they do.
But we
don't know. But we don't know. I think that's the piece we need to do. Yeah.
But you don't know, and that's what I'm saying. You've got to be able to find out. I think giving Jeannie, she looks like a very honest person. Give her another 30 grand. I don't think she's going to blow it and buy Ahmed a new hair barber or something. But you can get new stuff going this year, and we need it.
Well, just remember, BBC has a separate funding structure.
You can give the town, can give them some money, right? Can the town donate them some money, or what's the deal?
Well, any donation is from the taxpayers, so, it isn't the funding structure that we have, but certainly we'll take it into consideration, and we hope to hear from you in January.
Make sure I get there.
Okay. Anyone else?
Yeah, I'd like to.
Sure.
Maybe an online coupon or something that you use at any merchant, and then you know that it came from online. That would be quickly. And also, Bennington Theater Company is amazing. They're having events, sometimes multiple times a week. Union South, I think, is doing very well, especially after concerts or events at the theater. I think a calendar, there's a lot of music going on. If you're a music fan like myself, there's a lot of music going on now in town. The Bennington Theater is a big draw downtown. Maybe if we just publicize what's going on, people will come downtown, because there is a lot going on right now.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Ahmed, come on up. Sure.
Just for closure's sake on this topic, just working at the banner, okay, a lot of people sort of have this like general complaint about like, all you guys put out is how much crime we have. Basically, Vermont Begins Here is one of the best assets and tools to have to cover up some of that banner content. Honestly, when people are looking up Bennington, when people are looking up going to the fall in Vermont, when people are looking up all of the things that people romanticize around Vermont, they are running into websites like Vermont Begins Here, like Bennington Museum, ahead of our crime articles. So I just want to let you know that if we want to talk about online, what is the internet? What is the online space? It's a jungle. It's a jungle. Everything gets dumped on the internet. And then you have a sweet family from out of state genuinely looking up to make plans to come to a town in Vermont. They're trying to look up, what can I do with my family? And they run into an article from Vermont Begins Here. They run into an opening at the museum. They run into Sarah's event. That's the internet. That's the internet. It's not fair. It's a jungle. Sometimes you have to pay for your stuff to appear first. And that is truly what we're doing. We're trying to make Bennington appear to a wider audience that is down for all of its diverse recreations and attract different audiences. The thing about measuring impact and measuring success and actually seeing growth and all of this, it's absolutely important, absolutely important. But then if you want to get to like the, like the minutia, like all of the details of it, in my opinion, we probably have to train every service employee on how to represent Bennington when they're talking about Bennington. How are you going to ask this for someone that is already getting paid half the minimum wage and making tips? They are the actual forefront of the town. They are the actual people that are collecting like human data, not data. So if we want to get to like every side of it, absolutely. Each one of us, each organization, each department, each side of town that brings people here needs to do more. But look, it's only Jeannie and Jess putting together all of the BBC events. It's only Matt and Michaela putting all of the chamber events. It's only me that does online marketing on this side of online marketing in the region. If we have enough money, I can tell you, if someone from out of state looks up Vermont, and then the next website they go to, they will get an ad about Bennington. How nicely targeted is that? It's not cheap. It's not. So truly, genuinely, as someone that lives here, as someone that grew up and lived in tourist-heavy places, there's more work that needs to be done for this place to become like a full-on attraction for every single person. Starting with access to transportation, starting with access to all of these things. Do you know that the BBC this past summer brought 30 public art pieces to downtown Bennington? That is free programming. Nothing about the museum, but all of the families that say, I don't want to take my kids, they're going to be allowed in a gallery. They can go look at artwork in public and then decide where they want to go to shop and all of that. You might not know about it because we actually need more money to promote such things. So that's what's happening on land. A lot of initiatives, a lot of programming, like mentioned, Bennington Theater, so many players are really trying their best. And I think that genuinely, a little bit of less hate, a little bit of less toxicity, a little bit more like actually believing and trusting that some people are genuinely trying their best would just make the environment and the space more open for communication, collaboration, working together, and actually getting to a more successful Bennington. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Lovely place to end this discussion. I thank you very much.
Excellent work. Thank you,
This was really helpful to get this level of overview, and I understand it's taken this many years to get to this
And I
place.
do want to give a shout out to Jill Jones from 802 Marketing, who lives in Old Bennington. She's a wonderful neighbor and resident, and she couldn't be here because she's taking care of family, so.
Great, thank you. All right, traffic calming. We are finally to traffic calming. What we have before us tonight is a slightly amended traffic calming policy. This is a second reading, and we are hoping that we are able to finalize this tonight and adopt it. The other thing that we want to make sure we do tonight is decide whether, hopefully, we're going to make a motion to create a reserve fund so that we can fund the work that the traffic calming policy envisions. So, with that, Dan, you're standing there?
Like you mentioned, very minor amendments, no substantive changes. I want to thank Jeannie for helping us make some things clear about the petitioning process, but essentially the same document that we submitted last time, clarified in a couple locations. And again, this is a second reading, so if the board felt comfortable, you could adopt it, and then staff would begin to develop the procedures and the documents that need to go along with it so that we could smoothly implement this policy. But any questions, feel free to ask. I don't have my expert with me tonight, Mark Anders, but I'll do my best if there's any questions about the traffic calming.
I do like the changes. Thank you, Jean, for bringing that up on the neighborhood support petition and also support for measures.
Dan actually tweaked my tweaks, so it was a joint effort.
All right, well, thank you all. It does read much better. It's much clearer. So those were the only changes. Anything from the board on this?
I just want to make a comment that although this was, we've gotten to the second reading of an actual policy, I think that it went from zero to almost done very fast. And I'm very grateful for the staff effort that was put into this thus far. Thank you. I know this was a heavy lift.
Lots of credit to Mark Anders at BCRC.
Yeah,
Thank you.
understood.
Nancy?
Since the last meeting, I've been on the BCRC website in the transportation section. I found a study from 10 years ago that was done on speeding in Old Bennington, and a plan that was done 10 years ago to use traffic calming and other things to address speeding. I don't understand how that information has been there for 10 years, and we just started hearing about traffic calming a few months ago.
I can't speak to an Old Bennington study because we don't have jurisdiction in Old Bennington with regard to their roads. Maybe there's some folks here who have some experience with Old Bennington, but that wasn't anything that I was involved with or the town itself.
Were you aware it was there?
I knew there was a study. I couldn't tell you when it was. It sounds like you said 10 years ago. But no, it's not something the town was involved in.
I'm just going to ask, please, if you guys want to have a conversation, please go out because it interrupts everybody's hearing. Thank you.
I'm sorry, excuse me.
I can just say that I'm a resident of Old Bennington, and I have been paying attention to this topic. I've lived there for 5 years, and Nancy, this is the first I'm hearing that this was done 10 years ago, so that's interesting.
And this is a concern I've raised for several years. There are many plans online that people are paid to do for our area, but the people paid to do those don't come to the select board meeting so the public knows. I found another plan that I've asked about here multiple times for more than 5 years. I asked the same question in the Bennington Banner, and this is local. I've said, is there a plan for a bike path to run the length of County Street? To this day, no one answered it. Well, on the BCRC website, there sure is a plan, and it's been there for at least 5 or 6 years. So I have a huge issue to have asked a simple question. Certainly the town officials, the BCRC, many people were aware. And I think the reason they don't want the public to know is they want to run the bike path up County Street, across the street from the sidewalk. It appears all the parking next to the fence by the football field, baseball field, softball would disappear. Heavily used parking for 50 years. I know, I've lived there close all my life. They want to put bump outs, very, very defined plans. And to have asked that for over 5 years, and to have had town officials who could have answered me, or people from the BCRC could have called me and said, yes, the plan's there, and the fact that nobody would speak up.
I'm going to ask that we come back to the topic at hand, which is traffic calming. So we are looking at a traffic calming policy right now. Any beef you have with BCRC, you should take it up with them.
No, this is
but this is not the traffic calming policy. We are looking at the second reading of the traffic calming policy right now.
These are plans for Bennington, traffic calming.
Yes.
Why weren't they brought here?
Point of order. Jeannie gets to decide what we're discussing, and the agenda speaks very clearly about what we're supposed to be speaking about right now.
So, again, if you have questions for BCRC, please have at it. But right now, we're talking about the traffic calming policy, second reading. And the only change in this policy from the first draft that we saw last meeting are clarity on step 3 and step 6. So any questions or concerns about this policy?
Yeah, I think the policy is going to be used, so the Planning Commission, Dan, and the BCRC can work on these big projects, go out and get grants, and by the time the public finds out, it will be too late to have a say.
All right. So anyone in the public want to speak? Yes. Sir, you've been waiting.
Very interesting. Come here regularly. This is Roger Levitt again. Hello. My concerns began after reading a few articles in the Bennington Banner and then going to the town website and reading the traffic calming primer you have there. And I don't want to pick apart the whole thing, but my main topic, kind of condensed down, would be to the traffic bumps, humps, tables, not so much the intersections. I kind of didn't look into that as much. But upon reading the primer, I kind of found that it had an overly optimistic portrayal of these devices. So then, like anybody, I go to Google and I start searching. And it seemed like there were just so many negatives to installing these and to be honest, it's a little bit of self-interest. I noticed in one of the articles, my street was mentioned. So, like any lazy person, that motivated me finally to get up. But I'm just going to tick off some of the negatives that I see. It's certainly by no means limited to this, but I wanted to keep it finite. In many ways, and a lot of people said that it reduces the property values. It diverts traffic. If you have one of these devices, or as I'll say later, one is not enough. It seems to be the consensus that you have to have at least 2. It's going to divert traffic from your street, perhaps to another convenient street as people try to avoid these things. It slows emergency response. Now, I noticed that in the primer, it says that they can make these traffic humps with little slots for the emergency vehicles to scoot through. I don't know if at high speed you want to thread the needle with a fire truck. Just an aside to that is that the Federal Highway Administration requires, I'm not sure if this would would be applicable to local roads, but the local fire official to approve these things for emergency response, that being the main reason. If you think about it, speed tables are 2 bumps. There's the bump when you come on and the bump when you come off. So that's a little more jostling than just the speed bump. As I said, they require 2 or more to be effective. That's the online, expert opinion. They're going to require additional signage and pavement markings. So, you have these humps, you're going to need a warning sign that a bump's coming up. You may want a sign at the bump, and you may want pavement markings to give people warnings that this is where it begins to rise up. To my eyes, they're unsightly. Instead of, I'm not an artist, but nice, clean roadway seems to be natural, and suddenly you've got signage and fluorescent markings and uneven surfaces that make you, with all these things, do your own research, go online, make your own evaluation. I'm just raising these points. Road noise. This was one of the things that really spurred me on to look into this more and motivated me. Is like, in one of the paragraphs, it says, well, it really doesn't increase road noise because the tire speed is more noticeable at high speeds than the motor noise. Well, unfortunately, I happened to be sitting right by the roadway at that point in time. So I'm listening, and I'm like, is this true? And yeah, you have tire noise, and you can hear it, which you don't think of. It's kind of counterintuitive, but you do have tire noise, but it's a kind of a gentle whoosh. Whereas the motor noise is much more jarring and much further ranged. I think anybody who's been in Bennington at night can just, don't have to put your hand up to your ear. You just sit there and you hear the motor noise. And each one of these traffic humps is going to be equivalent to an intersection. People are going to slow down. You'll hear braking noise. You may hear them actually hitting the bump. And you're going to hear them accelerating away from the bump. They are the most permanent of the suggested solutions. They're an installation. They can't be unscrewed. They'd have to be broken up and moved away if they're not working properly. And they're also the most costly to remove of any of the things. Pavement markings can be redone when a road is paved, or signs can be unscrewed and moved or taken down, but you're going to have to, have a crew remove these things. Also, in that vein, in some cases, people have successfully petitioned or sued to have these things removed, and then you'd have to go through the expense of doing that. Now, I wanted to keep this to 10, which that was 10, but then the 11th one I had to add. Unlike some other traffic remedies, these are inflicted. You're going to have to go over these things and feel the bumps and hear the noise 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. If you think about it, like by the school, they have a speed limit drop during the day when school's in session. Good idea. But after hours, people can go a little faster. The traffic lights at night, a lot of them are put on yellow, red blinking, so people don't have to stop when there's no traffic at all. But not these things, there's no off switch. Let's see what else I have here. One thing I found odd, and this was another thing that kind of got me thinking, well, this is it's kind of a report that, while it might be some truth to it, kind of leaves a false impression on me, which was these yellow, these lit traffic signs which tell you how fast you're going. There was a comment made in one of the Bennington articles that people get used to them. And I would agree to that, with that, to a point. But I'm sure we're all local in one way or another, and we go to North Adams, and we go probably the shortest way into town there, which would be North Hoosick Street, and they have these signs. And granted, I think people have gotten used to them to a point, but they certainly slow down for them. I know I slow down for them. I know the people ahead of them still slow down for them. And if you feel people are getting used to them, move them around. They're screwed to a pole. Move them from problem spot to problem spot. It seems like an easy fix to me. And also, that mobility would add to their usefulness. Say you're having a big event downtown, maybe you move them, and slow people down for that congestion, event. But that's about all I have. But I do invite people to do their own research, do an online search, because, I put 10 things down here. There's a lot more. And maybe you don't believe what I said, so take a look. Thank you.
Thank you.
Since Mark's not here, he could give a passionate defense of speed humps and speed tables, but I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to say this policy doesn't dictate what sort of traffic calming measures will be installed.
Exactly.
So it may be that we don't install any of them. And I think the beauty of this policy, although it's a little bit cumbersome, I think it's important because these sorts of measures do have an impact on neighbors. We require a significant majority of the neighbors who are impacted directly by any traffic calming measures to sign a petition saying that they agree with the proposed design. So I think that protects the neighbors somewhat. That being said, I'm not a traffic engineer. I'm not advocating for any specific type of traffic calming. I do know that it does appear that folks throughout the community are very concerned about speeding, and maybe we decide we don't do tables, we just do all the other things, and that's fine. But this policy could get us started towards ranking those areas, and then select board decides ultimately what gets installed.
And I think, hang on for a sec. I think the discussion over the last 2+ months that we've been having around what we wanted to see, we were very clear that first, traffic professionals are going to be working on this, but second, that we don't want to go for the most expensive permanent fixes first. What we're trying to do is look at, does putting, slightly narrowing the street make it do the same thing as scaring someone with a speed table, or are there other things to do? We've raised some of the same questions you have, particularly around effectiveness of speed limits, blinking lights, and those sorts of things. But clearly, over the last 6 months, the number of communities that have come to us to talk about their concerns about speeding on their streets and wanting some mechanism. So this policy is providing us with a mechanism for addressing how do we slow traffic in particular areas that the neighbors feel that the traffic is too fast and it's dangerous. So
can I just put a button on that?
Yeah.
First of all, thank you for your thoughts. I think it's always worthwhile to hear thoughts about that. The policy that we asked the staff to develop was intended to bring the issue to light and put it through the study that is necessary. So this policy does not address the type of calming measure that might be appropriate for any particular situation. I think that those traffic calming measures that you mentioned would be very, very scrutinized by traffic experts, not by this board. We're going to act on recommendation, but our ask of the staff that I think that we've gotten to is to simply raise the issue, put some framework around what we do with that issue, because residents have come to us with their concerns, and now we have a way to put those concerns through the paces that it takes to get them into the hands of traffic calming experts, with potential solutions being the outcome. So I just want to share that with you.
Yes. We didn't spend much time talking about the information the police chief gave. He had 8 to 10 streets and roads listed, and if you've lived in Bennington long enough, I think everybody would agree these are long-time streets and roads that probably have had the biggest issues for speeding for decades. I guess I would tend to go towards more what the police department thinks we need to address first, rather than traffic experts who would pick places and go out and do studies.
So the traffic experts are not going to pick the places. The citizens are going to submit requests for us to look at places, and then we will study those and then rank them. So it's not like a traffic expert going to go around and say, well, this is the street you got to do. This is the street.
A recommendation from the police could certainly be the start of the process.
And the police department will be part of any review process.
Yes,
but I just want we're not saying we're going to hire a traffic expert to go out and tell us which roads to do.
But for anybody to look at the list he provided, I would think, common sense to me, the police department knows where the issues are, they know where the accidents are. I mean, a lot of us who've been here know the roads that everybody would agree are bad, and maybe we should address the worst first rather than going through, people petitioning.
That is the process. I think, to this gentleman's point, you won't only want to go through this process in a neighborhood where the residents see it's a problem and want it addressed. And the police department has been part of this whole discussion. So if they have any concerns about the policy, they, I'm assuming, would have weighed in. So this is a way to use their data and determine if a community thinks there's a problem, how serious that problem is. And, we had a long discussion about the way the point system worked as well, and whether we, why different things got different point values, and Mark talked to us about that. He also shared traffic calming policies from other communities so that we could see how they're addressing, sort of where they're putting the weight. So the police department is very involved in this, and the police department has been an active partner in putting all this together.
And I wouldn't be surprised if those roads were the first ones, some of the first ones studied, those roads that Nancy's referencing.
Well, we'll see what it comes up.
Just to kind of maybe address Nancy's concern and other folks that have already submitted, concerns about areas. One of the first things we'll do is we're going to put all that information together and look at the stuff that's really easy to do. Okay, are there not enough signs? We can take care of that right away. Is there some other issue that we can address right away that will maybe not solve the problem, but at least mitigate it to a certain extent, that are inexpensive, easy things to implement right away? They're not going to have to go through this whole process to put up some speed limit signs, or perhaps even to narrow the road but paint the road narrower with wider shoulders. Those sorts of things, that's not going to require a lot of effort and a study by a traffic engineer. If it's a persistent problem that folks in the neighborhood seriously want to have, perhaps some more aggressive measures. But we're not going to just wait for months for this process to unfold to take care of those easier issues.
On our town website, perhaps in the Planning Commission section, do they show those in-depth studies where the plans have already been done for certain streets in Bennington that show traffic calming?
I don't think we've done any traffic calming. There may be some studies about bike ped infrastructure, but not
maybe
traffic
not
calming.
Like I'm talking, if anybody goes to look at County Street, looking at what they want to do, what's being proposed, The cars would probably be going maybe 20 miles an hour down County Street. I didn't look to see if North Street was done, but this is what bothers me. You're the representative from our town to the BCRC, correct?
Currently, yes.
And haven't you and the Planning Commission been working with the BCRC for these different streets in Bennington?
Well, when you say different streets, you're talking about traffic calming, but if you're talking about the study, which is the North Street, Northside Drive Corridor Study, I forget exactly what it's called, that was presented to the Select Board. Mark Anders was here and showed all the slides, including that slide about County Street. So that is nothing new. There's nothing that's been hidden or been shoved under the rug. That has been shown. We haven't had funding to pursue much of that, and that's one of those lower priorities, but some of those things, like the Ninja Path and the rail trail, all of those things have broad community support, and we are pursuing those.
But the plans that you and the BCRC brought in front of the Select Board that they approved, titled Making Bennington Walkable. Obviously, to make Bennington walkable and bikeable, you would have to use traffic calming, correct?
Not necessarily. When you say there may not need to be additional measures taken.
Okay.
If there's already a good sidewalk, or if there's already plenty of right-of-way to put as protected bike lane.
Are those plans on the Planning Commission website?
I don't know if that one is or not. I know it's on the BCRC website.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, back to this policy.
Debbie's got a question.
Other comments? Yes, Deb.
Debbie Matt Bennington. I agree with this gentleman here with his list that he has. If you put in one of those tables, they will move to another street. Maybe not all of them, but some of them. And I believe the traffic signs that tell that you're doing 35 miles an hour in a 30-mile zone, the honest person will, hit the brakes and slow down. The other people that are going to speed, they're going to speed anyway, and they may hit it just to find out how fast they can go. So the only thing I see that will really help is consequences. Because speeding has been going on for years. And if I'm not mistaken, it's the younger generation, not the older people.
Okay. Oh, okay. Wow. Boy, those are fighting words.
But I don't believe these signs are truly going to help. And I compare it to the lock on your front door. It's for the honest person, and if they're going to break in, that lock doesn't mean a thing. They're going in anyway. So these traffic signs, they're just going to get a joy out of seeing how fast they can book down that road.
Thank you.
And as we discussed last time, the state of Vermont doesn't allow for automated ticketing through those signs. So if it is an important issue for folks, they may want to talk to their legislator about that.
Yes.
Let me also remind people that we talked about the intentional versus unintentional speeder. So intentional speeders are the folks that can be reminded in some of the ways that we're talking about. Unintentional speeders need to be caught and given consequences, to your point.
The other way. I think you reversed that.
I'm sorry. Intentional speeders need to be caught. Unintentional speeders will politely slow down when reminded that they're speeding.
It's a long night.
It's a long night.
All right. Any other comments about, this is the second reading on this traffic calming policy, very few changes. Anything else before we vote on it? Yes.
Dollar figures may be attached to it, has been suggested. I was just wondering what that's paying for.
So in a second motion, we're going to ask if the board will support a reserve, and we will work with town manager as he goes through the budget to look at what that might be. Last meeting, we did sort of a straw poll, and people were sort of between 15 and 25,000 as a starting reserve. And so the idea with that is that you have money in a pot, so if you can do it with reflective paint, That's not going to use a lot of that reserve, but there's a reserve there that can be added to over the years, so that if we have bigger projects, and certainly there's some streets that have been named that seem quite dangerous and would something should be done. We don't know what, but something should be done, so that reserve would be there. But that's a separate motion. So what we're doing right now is just voting on the policy itself. Is this the policy we want? And then we'll entertain a motion for a reserve, and then at budget time, we'll look at what the budget's looking like and what that reserve could possibly be.
As some of my points alluded to, these things may have a wider effect than say the people in the immediate vicinity. Is there going to be a chance for the public too?
Oh, yes. Yes, and so the other thing that we talked about was if a community does the petition, then the process of having their street evaluated, all of that will be on the website. It will be a public process. In the end, the select board has to decide. So if the recommendation comes in and says it's going to cost $400 million to, fix this road, and the street right behind it that didn't get as many points, like this was a really bad street, the street behind it that didn't get as many points is only going to cost $25, then, the select board's going to decide how much money we have to put toward that, and the reserve may never cover what needs to be done on the first street, or that may be reconsidered. What can we do for...
And as always, that happens in public, and there's opportunity for public input.
Just as you are tonight.
Yeah. Okay. So do we have a motion?
I'm happy to make a motion.
Okay.
That we accept the draft common policy, that we adopt the traffic calming policy as presented tonight.
Is there a second? Who seconded?
I'll second.
Okay, all right. Any further discussion? All right. All those in favor?
Yes, hello.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I will be voting no. I have an issue that the BCRC has had all this information about traffic calming techniques for 10 years and never came before the public and shared them until a few months ago.
But Nancy, we're voting on a policy. We're not voting on whether you like the BCRC.
And isn't the BCRC going to be working with the policy?
The BCR... Dan, do you want to explain again what the BCRC's role
I understand
in this
the
process?
BCRC's role.
Apparently not. You just asked the question.
Oh, apparently I do.
So I don't know if people understand it or not, but it is the BCRC, we will be using their expertise to evaluate things like percentage of people that are speeding, they have the equipment, and those sorts of things. So yeah, we will be using BCRC's expertise to evaluate the issue, and we will also be working with them and perhaps an engineer, if it requires it, to design traffic calming measures that would then be presented to the neighborhood for their review. So that we would have a partnership, as we do with many things with BCRC.
Thank you. Okay, all right, so all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. How many can people put their hands up? Okay, so 5, 6, I can count. All those opposed, please say nay.
No.
1 no. Any abstentions? All right. Nancy, you got that? Yeah. Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. All right, so the second part of this, as was alluded to, is in order, and I think Mark Anders was very eloquent about this. If you're going to put a policy in place, you need to be able to implement it. So we don't know, I think from our discussion last week, it was unclear how much we would need. We were told that if we did something like a traffic table, we should assume that it would be $25,000 to do everything. We don't know how much money we're going to have. We also don't know if we need to do a traffic table in the first year, because the plan was to look at what are low-cost things we can do to begin with. So I think I would be looking for a motion that this board thinks putting a reserve in place so we can start putting some money in place to be able to pay for traffic calming measures is appropriate.
I think that it is appropriate to make that motion and agree on a reserve at whatever that number is that this board decides, because I agree that without funding, the policy will be hard to enforce.
Yeah.
So I'm not making a motion, I'm agreeing with you that we need to, I think.
Okay.
Because we don't have a dollar amount
So we can make a motion to add a reserve to our budget. Is that the language? We're adding a reserve to the budget?
Okay. So I'll make a motion that we add a reserve to the fiscal '26 budget for traffic calming.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
All right. Any discussion?
Stu, roughly how many reserves do we have right now?
A number.
More than 8?
Oh, yes, more than 8. In the highway fund, we only have 3.
And what is the purpose of a reserve? Because that's where we're going, I think.
Reserves are established either by the voters, or by the board, or by the staff to set aside funds for future use when it is determined that there is a need, so that we are able to spend those funds without impacting the taxpayer funded budget of that given year.
Okay. Other questions? Discussion? Public, any discussion on the idea of a reserve? I think we're a worn-out group. All right. Hearing none. All those in favor of creating a reserve, please say aye.
Aye.
Just a reserve?
Just the reserve.
No money?
Correct.
Okay.
All right. Is this unanimous? All right.
I think.
Yes? Okay, all right, thank you. So we're unanimously in favor of creating a reserve. Thank you very much. All right, let's move on to manager's report.
Thank you. I don't have much for you tonight. I did include the Bennington County Regional Commission's history of our current town plan to try to show how it came to pass that the Regional Commission did in fact approve the plan and the energy amendment, thereby extending its life to 2026. I also note that I was of the impression at the last meeting that we had decided to meet on December 18th for our second listening session. I understand tonight that I was to be looking at January dates as well. I must admit I didn't do that because I thought the question had been resolved. So I will be taking a look at January dates in time for the next meeting. And that's really all I've got.
Okay. Yes, Clark.
Heard. I'm a bit confused. The word amendment versus adoption. I can't find where they're equal in this process. Also, I can't find where the BCRC has the statutory authority to perform municipal legislative authority and actions. I have had multiple communications with you. I've referenced various state statutes, and I'm hard-pressed to find a document that grants BCRC the authority to make a legislative decision for this board. My understanding of reading 24 VSA 4385 that the municipal authority conducts, subsequent to public hearings, conducts public discussions and public votes, and uses the term specifically adopting a plan, not amending a plan. Reading the same statute, it says an amendment is not an adoption. An amendment does not extend a plan. I've asked in writing in our last year in public to provide me statutory citations or have someone from BCRC appear before this board and this public and explain their authority to usurp legislative responsibilities of this body to adopt, not amend, adopt a plan without this organization conducting the statutory required activity.
Well, I would be glad to ask the director of the BCRC to come in before you if that is what the board desires.
Okay, we can put it on the next agenda if Bill's available.
Wouldn't it be easier just to contact the lawyer at the state level that handles this?
There is no lawyer at the state level that handles this. The responsibility for overseeing town plans rests with the Regional Planning Commission of the county in which the town is located. Our amended plan for the Energy Committee went to the Bennington County Regional Commission. They warned a meeting to consider the plan, and at that time took two separate actions. One, to adopt the town plan, the amended town plan, to adopt the amended town plan, and the second, to adopt the energy, or confirm that we were in compliance with the energy amendment. That was the initial requirement. I can't, that was 6 years ago. I can't speak to why they did it that way or anything else. All I can show you is what the record shows, and we have relied on that vote and that decision for 6 years. And I just don't understand why we just can't accept that that was a decision that the Regional Commission made, and we have lived with it, and it actually benefits us. So why would we object to what they did 6 years ago?
Well, first of all, in case you haven't noticed, people in this town ask me questions, and mysteriously I try to get those questions answered. Secondly, my question remains. Can you define adopting versus amending in the statutory requirement to adopt a new plan versus amending a new plan? And again, what statutory authority grants BCRC the right to supersede these statutory requirements for this legislative body to adopt a plan? I want people in Bennington to stop asking me questions. I'm ready to stop asking questions myself. As long as people in this town ask me questions, I will do my best to get those questions answered.
Well,
So I think, whatever your name is, Ed. Ed's question, because these documents do seem to address that, was about the official ballot.
So Stu, if you shared with us a copy of the official BCRC ballot for the vote to approve the Bennington Town Plan as amended and adopted by the town on January 22nd, 2018, doesn't that address it right there? The language is approve the Bennington Town Plan as amended and adopted.
I believe it does. I believe that we have relied on that action for these 6 years, and I don't know what else to say.
What I have to say is I've watched the YouTube video of that meeting you're referencing, and I specifically heard, I went back and watched it 3 times because, kind of obtuse. And I never heard the phrase adopting a new plan spoken. Excuse me, I'm speaking.
Yes, you are.
The phrase adopting a new plan. I heard accepting amendment to the plan. The term adopting new plan was absent.
It's on the official BCRC ballot.
I don't care because you haven't given me the legislative authority for the BCRC to override the statutory duties of this board.
All right, so why don't I see if Bill Colvin, who's the director of the BCRC, is available for the next meeting, all right? All right, other things, we have a bunch of minutes included. We requested and are now getting all of the records requests, so we have them back from July 1, 2024 through October 31st, so 4 months worth of records requests, so we can see what was requested, whether it was, the case was closed, who requested it, and how it was, I don't know, how the information was given to the requester.
Is this a complete listing of those requests for the time frame you mentioned?
Jonah isn't here, so I don't know. I'm assuming the 50 requests that are in here, I'm assuming because they start on July 1 and end on October 31st, that this is everybody that requested during that time.
Take note that I submitted 3 requests in early October, and I don't see any of those listed here.
Okay, so when Jonah's back in the office.
Yeah, just because I know I overheard Jonah speak. Requests from select board members, we don't consider those public records requests because you're the part of the government.
Stated they were public record requests.
Right, and I think Jonah had mentioned that given that you're a select board member status that you did, but if you want them reflected, I'm sure Jonah would be happy to do so, but we don't normally we don't normally reflect as public records requests from select board members for information. But
yes.
And I'd like to see a copy of that policy, the statutory guidance that allows that determination to be made.
There's no statute on that.
So this is just an arbitrary decision.
Well, you're part of the government, so that's why
it's a courtesy.
It's a courtesy.
Again, they were presented, actually I sent them on my personal email as a citizen, not as a select board member requesting information.
I'm sure Jonah would be happy to amend the report.
All right, so we'll get an amended report at the next meeting that includes 3 additional records requests. Okay, anything else? Any other questions about manager's report or attached documents? Hearing none. We are on to upcoming agendas. I had a conversation, I was informed yesterday, I don't know when, sometime recently, by the Charter Review Committee Chair that they expect to be ready to present on November 25th. Okay? Which is earlier than we thought. So on the next meeting, Charter Review recommendations and BCRC if the director is available. And then my understanding is December 9th, we have CPARB would like to give us an update, and they have some language changes in their charge that they would like to recommend.
Yep.
And then just a reminder to everybody, December 16th is replacing the December 23rd meeting. So that will be mainly to do warrants because it's only a week after the first meeting. So I think we have to do warning for the public hearings on the charter.
On the 16th, we will most likely have that warning available to you.
Okay, all right. Okay, all right. Other business. I should just write down who's supposed to start. Tom, let's start with you.
I have nothing to say.
All right.
Thank you.
Clark.
I'm requesting that you provide me and the community with the documentation, a written policy that obviates my ability to speak as a member of the public at these meetings. I'd like to see that in writing.
It doesn't obviate anything. What it does is, at the beginning of every meeting, because we want to hear from the community, we invite the public to come in and share information that is of benefit to all in 3 minutes or less, that is not on the agenda. So we have other avenues. We have other business, we have agenda items, we have a myriad of ways that we can share information. The public comment period is a time set aside specifically for, and that probably is in our rules and our procedures, for the public to come forward. We are sitting select board members, and so in that instance, we are not members of the public coming to the meeting. We are doing the work of the town as elected select board members. So it's not that you can't do it, Clark. It's that it is not the intent of public comment. And, you know, there have been times when many of us have gone out and said, you know, this event's coming up, we want to invite you to come to it, you know, I'm here representing X organization. And we have all done that on occasion. But it is not a practice to use public comment when you are a sitting select board member as a way to share information that there are other avenues for you to do.
Tell me what I was going to say that didn't fall in the category of that example you just spoke of. I happen to be a disabled veteran of wartime service to this country, and I may want to stand up and tell people how proud I am of serving this country, and that I consider being a member of the select board a continuation of the oath I took 50 years ago to serve, protect the Constitution and the United States of America. You had no idea what my content was, but you decided on your own that I could not speak.
What I said was, unless it was...
By saying I've done this several times, when in fact I've not done it several times. I've spoken twice through public comment.
So this would be a third. So what's wrong with doing it right now? This is what you're doing right now.
I'm not going to have you covering your fanny. You cut me off without any knowledge of what I had to say. And again, it goes in keeping with one of the concerns I've had consistently.
Right.
That people have felt.
Well, I did ask.
To speak before this board.
Before you say that, I did ask if there's anyone else in the public who would like to sign up with the understanding that that was for the public. It is not, I mean, Clark, it sounds like what you wanted to say is quite lovely, and you are saying it right now, which is the time where we do other business.
Again.
So please say your piece.
I'm not interested in being validated by you covering your fanny after the fact.
All right. Jean?
I have nothing to say. I just want to go home.
Oh, but you can't. We have 2 executive session issues. Okay, Nancy.
Stu, how many days do we need to warn a special town vote? Is it 30 days?
30 days, yes.
Okay. So to have that special town vote on the Ben High, we're running out of time, and I don't want to stall. I am shocked by the amount of last-minute things that were stuck in our packet a month ago. The board hasn't approved those. The board won't even put it on an agenda to discuss it. We don't have voter approval to charge our taxpayers anything, let alone $400,000 a year. The public is so in the dark, and it has been done deliberately. I followed this. I know all the details, probably more than most of the board. This needs to be, we need to have a couple of really quick, long discussions so the public can understand the taxpayers. It's past the time of worrying about Zach Hale. What our taxpayers are going to be paying for, most of it isn't their responsibility anyways. So what's the deadlines do for us to warn that meeting? Like within a week?
Well, as I told Mr. Bethel when he questioned me before the meeting, we have an agreement with Hale Resources and Chris Gilbert. We have amended that agreement several times. Hale Resources is working through the finances to make sure that they are accurate in what they are asking of the town, and if in fact there was a need to carry that agreement beyond December 31st, if that is in fact the ultimate deadline for the agreement, then we would negotiate that with them. There's no reason to panic about when we can get out of this agreement. I think we have a very good working relationship with Hale Resources and Mr. Gilbert, and we will do what we need to do to make sure that this project gets before the public and the board with the information necessary to make a final decision, and we will make sure that we do that within a fair and decent timeline.
Well, the agreement says it's the end of March, and you need 90 days before, which is the end of December.
Yeah. Then, if that is the case, and we need to extend that agreement, I am sure that the parties to the agreement
So that
would
our
agree.
town can still get out of it.
Yes.
But all of this information, $8 million on the grand list, now worth, and again, the public doesn't even know. Hale's going to have a 50-year deal, right?
What do you mean the public doesn't know? Everything that you are saying out loud, the public has access to the same information that we have.
Very few, well, I'll bet the public doesn't know that I read that the senior center is going to be used to generate tax credits for the Ben High. I asked that for 2.5 years.
Nancy, remember, this is other business right now? Is there anything?
Okay, well, again, to go from $20 to $50 million, and I can't even get the board to put on it for public discussion?
When we have
we have information.
Nancy, no one is stonewalling you. What is happening right now is Zach said he is not ready to come before the board because he is still gathering signatures. When he is ready, we will absolutely have him here, as we have had, I've lost count, 5 or 6 big meetings with him. Everything is on the website. There is nothing to have a conversation about as we keep spinning. There is no, until there's more information.
To understand what some of you want to charge them for.
Nancy, please stop. Do not go down that path, please. So your concern about having Ben High on the agenda is duly noted. We are all interested in that happening. As soon as Zach is able to do that, he will be here. And that's how it works.
I don't work for Zach Hale. I work for the people of Bennington, and this deal has gone from bad to horrendous for the taxpayers.
Nancy, that is an unfair statement. Your personal opinion is not necessarily accurate.
I'm using the documentation and the figures.
And you are misconstruing lots of information at this point.
Absolutely
When
not.
Hale Resources can come before us, they will. Now, is there anything else? Because we do have 2 items on.
Sure. Stu, you said 2 months ago the town was awarded a grant of nearly $2 million for the bike path, 1.9. Did our town accept it?
Yes.
Okay. Well, there's a $400,000 local share. I will never charge our taxpayers $400,000.
We had that conversation in public. We voted, and the discussion at the time was all the in-kind work we do is counted in any match, and that there are no grants that do not require matches.
I just want to say, Nancy, anything that we budget for the Ninja Path would have to be approved by this board. We are investigating ways to do in-kind work so that it will limit, if not eliminate, that match. So there's nothing to talk about now unless and until we come to this board and ask for those funds to be put in the place in the budget. Depending upon how much.
But if you're talking in-house work, you're talking our town employees, right?
That's correct.
Okay, well, we pay the town employees.
Yes, but if our town employees are asked to do a job for the town, yes, they're getting paid. They're getting paid their hourly rate. We're using our equipment, our materials. But that also counts as a match towards the grant funds, which allows us to build a very worthwhile project that I think the community has supported pretty strongly over the years for less money than it would take if we had to ask the taxpayers to fund a contractor to do that work. So it makes sense to use our staff and gain the match dollars.
So I just want to be careful because we won't know until we have a project and we know what in-kind is accepted and whether we can use a force majeure account, which would actually get us reimbursed for labor costs. We don't know all that, so until we have an ask for the board, it's premature to discuss this. I will say it's important to note that for these types of projects, whenever you accept federal funds for a project, if you refuse to go forward, and I'm talking about from 10 years ago when we accepted federal funds, if you refuse to go forward with the project, you have to pay back all the federal and state funds that have already been expended. So that would be well over $1 million if we decided not to proceed, that we would have to pay back to the feds. So we're going to figure out a way to go forward with this project. We're going to make it so that the taxpayers feel comfortable with the product they're getting. We're going to make it as inexpensive as possible, but this project needs to move forward, and we'll work to figure out a way to do it.
Thank you. Sarah, anything?
Very brief right now, very, very brief. Looking at January 4th, the budget session, I will not be here. I have a family wedding, so that's good, but not great for the budget session.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, and I hate to do this, but I really do want to thank Kelly Timbrook. That's not even true. Kelly Timbrook, she's the project manager for composting at Casella, and she took a group of us under the auspices of BCRC and the Solid Waste Alliance for a tour of the composting facility earlier this week, which was really, really wonderful. And you can buy their topsoil and you can buy their compost, and it is beautiful to look at. It's a very simple and effective system. And I learned that wine corks, if they're real cork, I mean, this is sort of a duh, but those are compostable. So they should be going in your compost instead of the trash can.
That's not a duh.
Well, it is, sort of. I mean, of course, it's cork. But so not the plastic ones, but the cork ones. So anyway, I just wanted to very much thank her. She works for Casella in a lot of different municipalities, and so she came over and gave us an hour and a half of her time. So it's really wonderful.
And I have no new business.
Okay, so with that, we have need of an executive session to discuss both contract and personnel, and so I would ask for a motion to go into executive session and thank everyone here for being here this evening and for your comments.
So moved. Good night, everybody.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, thank you.